Hello, welcome to the conversation here on News Central Television. This is the program where we bring you all the latest political updates happening on the continent. I'm Gbenga Aborowa.
And I am Rita Omodia. It's another edition of the conversation right here on News Central TV. And we have so many stories making the front burner on the political scene. We also know of the story, Gbenga, in Central African Republic, where municipal elections has once again been delayed after about over 30 years in the country. And according to the government, they cited a lack of funds for this delay. But on today's edition of the conversation, we'll be looking at the progress in Tanzania 1 year after President Samia Suluhu Hassan has been sworn in, and Nigeria's 2023 elections as parties begin sale of forms.
Now, a year ago, after the death of John Pombe Magufuli, the president of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu Hassan, assumed office as president of Tanzania with a full agenda, a pledge not only to fight the pandemic and support economic recovery, but also to rebuild the economy, which has been adversely affected by the global COVID-19 pandemic, and to produce long-term and more widely shared growth.
Believing that creating a friendly business environment will provide a room for shaping the country's economy, President Hassan, in her maiden speech to Parliament, articulated the need for the government to regain investors' confidence. 1 year down the line now, economists describe the period as a course of correction with more hopes. Join us live on the conversation to discuss Samia Suluhu Hassan's 1 year in office are Godbless Lema. He's a member Chadema party and a former member of Parliament Tanzania. Also, we have Emmanuel Mvula at Wazalendo, Shadow Minister for Finance in Tanzania. We do hope to have Wazalendo back in on the conversation subsequently on the program. But right now we have with us Emmanuel from Tanzania, from Canada rather. Thank you so much for joining us on the program at this time.
Honorable Godbless
Godbless, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, I can hear you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I can hear you now.
All right, so generally, what has been your assessment of the first year of President Samia Suluhu Hassan's presidency?
First of all, CCM is still in power. As we're marking 1 year of President Samia to be in power. So I think basically you want me to pose the difference between the current regime of President Samia and the late John Pombe Magufuli.
Definitely.
Yes, I think that's what I mean. I don't think if I would have that position right now, because our chairman, our national chairman, has just finished his press conference like a few hours ago, and that same question was posed to him. What is our take towards 1 year of Samia Suluhu in the office of president? And he said that he was not ready to answer that because that one can be precisely answered very well with CCM spokesperson. But myself, I see that the system is still in power. And me being a politician, I see some little changes based on political gimmicks and not of the reality. But until now, the road has been opened to start some of negotiation on political difficulty. As you know, that our chairman was in prison, was in Rumandis for about 8 months. And he just came out recently, and he had a chance to meet with President Samia, and also our vice chairman, Honorable Tundu Lissu, who is in exile in Belgium, had a meeting a few days ago with the President Samia at Belgium. There is a kind of discussion we have started, and I know that we program right ahead to see some more talks. So until then, I can be able to talk about the future of the country towards President Samia Suluhu in the power. But for the moment, I see that still there is a political gimmick, and I don't want to talk so much about maybe he has been so well about his position because still system is in the power.
Okay. Honorable Lema, you did mention some freedoms and the difference in the political climate in Tanzania compared to when John Pombe Magufuli was president. You talked about the release of the chairman of your party, Freeman Mbowe, and also President Hassan meeting with Tundu Lissu on the sidelines of the Africa-European Summit in Belgium. What would you say, apart from this new political freedoms that Tanzania seems to be enjoying, are the major achievements in the last 1 year of the president?
We don't yet have a political freedom. You know, we have law that guiding the political activities. That law based on our constitution in our country. We have the regulation, but yet we are not doing political rallies. We are not doing with confidence any of our political activity in the country. So we still don't have that freedom you're talking about, and that's why I say because.
But compared to what it was under John Magufuli, I mean, the difference is clear.
I'm trying to come there. Yeah. That's why I'm trying to come there. I cannot, because the same situation that we had during Magufuli time, the same situation we still have the same we have right now at Samia Suluhu leadership. So until we are going to finish our meeting, that I say that we thank God that she's opened the door to start negotiation with our leaders in our political parties, then we can be able to speak about the future of the Tanzania, about the political freedom. But until at this moment, we cannot do meetings, we cannot do anything freely. And you know that there is a meeting or there is a negotiation going on TCD, Tanzania Center of Democracy, that has been calling the meeting to make some changes on regulation and the laws that conducting political activity in the country, which we see that is against the order, it's against the law, because as you know that we have already on the table the law that is guiding political activities in the country, but we are not even using them full.
All right.
So I see that there is a kind of a trick in the political gimmicks, and that's why I just don't want to go so much further there, because she already opened the door with our leaders. Until then, let us wait the negotiation and see how we're gonna end up.
Okay, while there are still discrepancies on political freedom in Samia Suluhu's first term, let's look away from politics and come to the issue of economy. One of the monumental tasks when she took over the presidency was a pledge she made on April 22nd to restore investors' confidence in Tanzania by overhauling outdated investment laws and offering incentive packages. We know how important the economy is in any country. How has she performed with regards to this and the economy under her presidency?
She's trying very well to meet some investors abroad, wherever she's going. And I think when she came into power, I think the country had a very serious problem about finance, about economically perspectives towards, Western and European. But that also depends. I think the strength of that will depend on the future of politics in the country. Most of the investors, before they just come in full, it's always they just observe the political stability and democracy and the rule of law stability in the country. So still most of the investors, they have this doubt. We have been talking to a lot of people around the world. You know that I'm outside in Canada right now. And they see Tanzania as a very beautiful country for the investment and everything. But the full doubt about taking investment to the country is due to the situation, to the political situation in the country. So maybe because the country needs money and Magufuli left the country, left in a very bad situation, maybe there is a political gimmick that has been under constructed to make sure that we have a good face before the international community, so that we can be able to invite or to attract some investors from outside. But the difference with Magufuli, yes, it performed very different with Magufuli. She met with some neighboring countries. She has been meeting with some, Western and European to talk about the country. Yes. That's different. The different approach with President Magufuli, what he has been doing those days. But that alone is not enough to attract more investors in the country. But at least she's trying to meet with some colleagues all over the world to make sure that Tanzania is going to be the hub of the economy of East Africa.
Now, Honorable Lema, when President Samia Suluhu Hassan assumed leadership of the country, she inherited the whole state apparatus and machinery of the late President John Pombe Magufuli, and it was under presidency that the leader of your Chadema party, Chairman Freeman Mbowe, was sent to prison. Would you say she's becoming her own person, or has she been able to win herself off the influence of the Magufulistas and the government?
Come again, if I would like to understand much more.
So I said, is the president becoming her own person, knowing that she inherited the old state apparatus and machinery of the Magufuli government, and has she been able to win herself off the influence of Magufulistas?
Yeah, I think she's trying, but you see, at the moment, we still have the same people on the power. And you remember when we're talking about the Freeman Mbowe case,
yeah.
You remember that we talk about it when they arrested him. That was purely political case. But I think she didn't want to listen and remember herself. She went through public, before.
So the court should decide.
And she said that, Honorable Mbowe was also based on the matter that has been before the court. But we said clearly, and much we said that Mbowe was not an organized crime, was not on that organized crime thinking. But until then, she came to, I think, ask for a DPP and the Northern School for Freeman Mbowe to be free. Maybe, if you ask me, because of the international pressure, of the local pressure, and she sees that things has become so much difficult, and after the evidence being tabled before the court, I think maybe she decided to release Freeman Mbowe, because it's not only that it's damaged her politically, but again, internationally, it's really damaged her. And you know that she's really pursuing to see that she attracts a lot of investors in the country. So with a leader of opposition being in prison, and you pretend yourself that you want to change the country from the Magufuli thinking to the different thinking that you see that the country can take off, I think you must start with the things which will look positively before the international community and the local community. So I think maybe the release of Freeman Mbowe is really based on the international pressure and local pressure, and based also in economical factor. Tanzania needs a lot of help from donors, from the international community, from the Western and European. And I think that's a fundamentally, but that release of Mbowe doesn't mean that the political stability in the country is going to be changed very soon. So until then, we see how it's going to happen after the meeting with our leaders in the future days, then we can be able to talk full about this.
All right, what about the area of freedom of speech and the human rights in Tanzania? Has it improved? And what are the updates on investigations of the assassination attempt on Tundu Lissu?
No investigation has been done. And the freedom of speech and freedom of political rights, there is no. We have laws before the country, and that constitution allowed us to do some rallies in the country, our political activities. But no political party can be able to do any political meeting, any rallies in the country, until they just came into to start framing a new regulation and new laws about how we're going to conduct our political activity in the country. And this is very bad. So since we have the laws and regulation before the table, I think we could be able to continue with our political activity and not wait until the new regulation come up on the table. And you know that our party has been pursuing the agenda of new constitution in the country, that we see will change a lot of situation in the country. And you remember that we have been postponed, or we have been rejecting, we have been ignored to get into a lot of meetings. The government meeting with the ICT Wazalendo leader, who is now the chairman of TCD. Tanzania Center for Democracy, is engaging some political gimmicks, not a meeting anyway, to form some new regulation, some new laws for how the opposition will be conducting our activity in the country while we have the laws on the table. So there is no such a freedom of expression too much as people might think, but there is a political gimmicks towards that. I think maybe Samia Suluhu, she might be very clever to escape the route of Magufuli in a way that she might not be seen very, very stubborn on a political and democratic issues in a very strategic way, more than Magufuli, who was a bulldozer.
Yeah.
So they play the same role of rejecting the political activity in the country, but in a different tactic. And it's need a lot of understanding, high intelligence to understand this technique. I think the Western and European also, they need a lot, a fundamental analysis to realize that Tanzania is still the same, but in political gimmicks, is really been playing very differently towards these issues you were talking about.
Thank you very much, Honorable Godbless Lema. Who would like to bring in Emmanuel Mvula, the act of Wazalendo, Shadow Minister of Finance in Tanzania. Thanks for joining us, Emmanuel. Hello, are you there, Emmanuel? Okay.
Hello?
Okay, thanks for joining us on the conversation. Can you hear me?
Hello, I can hear you.
Okay, my question to you, Emmanuel, is this. President Samia Suluhu Hassan in the past said her priority is the economy, and she's not in support of a review of the constitution of Tanzania. She said it's not her priority. Is the current constitution of the Republic of Tanzania adequate enough to address the yearnings and aspirations of Tanzanians? Or do you toe the same line as President Suluhu Hassan that feels, you know, the constitution is fine the way it is?
The constitution is not fine the way it is. And as the struggle has always been to have a new constitution in place. And our party is working towards having a new constitution in place, because the current one is old and cannot cater for the for development and the well-being of the nation. So we understand that there are some efforts which were made previously, but currently we are fighting to have a new constitution in place.
All right.
So yes, I don't agree with the president that the constitution is caters for the needs of Tanzanians.
What are the specific issues? What are the specific problems with the constitution, and what areas would you like to have a review?
Specifically, we have problems with the powers vested to the president and the presidency itself, that he has too many powers under the constitution, which we think it is important for those powers to be vested in other organs, so that freedoms and rights of the people can be achieved. But on the other hand, there can be checks and balances for the acts of the president and the presidency seat itself. But also there are union matters to be governed, and generally the administration of resources, natural resources, and so forth. So that is the priority of the areas to be changed. But also there must be changes to guarantee freedoms and rights of the citizens, which we find through some of the organs which have been created by the constitutions, infringes those rights, like freedom of expression, freedom of press, and so forth. So those are the areas. First, we have to make changes on the powers vested to the president.
Yeah.
There is the union matters, the union itself and its structure. And thirdly, we have to deal with the rights, and henceforth we can guarantee rights of the citizens.
All right, Emmanuel, before you came in earlier on, we spoke to Godbless, who is a member of the Chadema party, and we were looking at assessing President Samia Suluhu Hassan's 1 year in office, talking about the politics, talking about health and the economy. In your own view, we know that last year, President Hassan announced that she'll be contesting in the 2025 elections. Do you feel Samia Hassan has the mettle for national politics so far, 1 year in office?
So far, President Samia has fulfilled some of the expectations of the citizens and people in Tanzania, in the sense that the political climate and democratic climate and space was so much infringed during Magufuli's era. Now, with the coming up of Mama Samia, there has been hope in that things are going to change. It shows that there is a political will to change things, and also there is that aura that people now are claiming that things have changed in terms of the threat to lives. There were so much detentions and so forth. Now have changed, and the persecution in some ways physical. But the problem is, while Samia has tried to achieve this and changing the perception and so forth, the laws themselves have not been changed. So it will be better if she will move along or move forward by making some changes and amendments in some laws which infringed the rights of the people. For instance, there were some laws which were applied and put people behind bars, like if you have some, there is a law on bail, which some of the offenses didn't have the bail. If you are alleged to commit those offenses, you are not supposed to get bail. So they were used by the previous regime to hold people behind bars without due process and so forth. So with Samia, he has ordered some of the cases to be dropped, and some charges to be dropped, and people to be released from prisons, and those cases which do not have evidence, concrete evidence, the state should drop and so forth. But that is not enough, because that is a person who is doing that, and the laws themselves have not changed. So it will be very important for her to go and change some of the laws so that they can reflect her goodwill and can go along with the expectations of people, which she has raised so much.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Now back to Honorable Godbless Lema. Just before we wrap things up, last year, barely a year into her time in office, in April, Madam Suluhu Hassan announced that she will be contesting the elections. Was that announcement premature, and what could be the reason behind that?
I don't really want to talk so much deep about that, because I'm not a member of
her party. Yes,
but I think she really want to be the president in 2020 on the presidential election in 2025. I think, and maybe there is a rumor inside the party, maybe they would like maybe to change the position. I think maybe she wanted to affirm the position, even to the, I think to inside his party, that he should be there on 2025. That was, I think that was a message. She posed the message to his fellow brothers or sisters in her party, to tell them that, listen, you just don't come close to this way, maybe it will be dangerous. And remember when she was when she changed the cabinet, she had the same talk that there are other people who are looking for the president in 2025, and I'll never give them a chance for that position, because I will be in full in 2025. I think that was the inside politics here. That's why I cannot talk too much. But we are not afraid of being in the ballot box on 2025. But what we want is just a new constitution that will provide a good environmental for all of us to participate in politics of the problem.
All right, Emmanuel, let's hear from you. What's your take on her position for running 2025?
First of all, Godbless has said that is an internal party issue of her party, CCM. But talking from a rights and constitution, the position in the constitution, he has inherited this presidency from Magufuli, who has died immediately after taking oath to lead the nation for his second term. Now, because the time lapse between when he was elected and took office for the second term, under the Constitution, Samia is eligible for another term after this. Now, going by the CCM tradition, is that usually the president who has served for a single term, usually in their tradition, is he or she is given a second term in their party.
Okay.
Like the election of 2020, you remember there was no other candidate. Usually they just flag in one candidate. So there are high hopes that Mama Samia will run for the elections in 2025. And she has indicated that in several times. Once when she was speaking with women, one meeting organized by women, she said categorically when they congratulated her that now we have a female president, he said this is not ours, is when coming in 2025. And he has indicated also, and some party stalwarts, system party stalwarts, have said that. So there is 90% or more than that she will stand for elections for presidential elections in the year 2025.
Thank you.
As a party, we are ready, and we will challenge that, and we hope that we'll do our work to unseat her when times come.
Thank you.
Going by that, he is a clear CCM candidate in the coming elections.
Okay.
That is what I take from
Thank you, Emmanuel. Back to Honorable Lema, and wrapping up today's conversation. We've seen the president give some concessions. She did release the leader of the opposition party that was in jail. She met with the deputy president of your party in Belgium, Mr. Tundu Lisu. So will this release be a sign of things to come, that the government would allow the opposition to operate more freely, or is it too early to call?
It depends. If she's looking an election that is very fundamental and very paramount more than the future generation of the country, that alone it cannot be the solution. Because if you don't have a leader who sees the next generation is very important more than the next election, then this can cause a lot of problems. But if she sees that as the future of the country and the future of the children and grandchildren of the country is better and important than the victor of his party, coming to the next election of 2025, maybe might be a very good start. That's why I say we wait until then. Our leaders, they know that at the end of April, we're going to have a meeting. We're going to have a technical meeting with her, talking about the things that has been blocking the country to move forward, politically, democratically, and economically. Then after that, maybe we can have our talks maybe in the middle of May there, or early May there, to see if you can ask me this question maybe on the middle of May or the end of May this year. Maybe I would have some important remarks on this. But otherwise, yeah, as I said before, I think Emmanuel maybe was not here. I said before, Mama Samia, she was the vice president when President Magufuli was a president. The same system, the same policy, the same constitution, we still have them on the table. So we cannot speak anything about the coming election if we don't have a new constitution. And if we want to see her, that she's really a democratic person, number one, and this must be so, she must think to change the way people want about the constitution we have right now in the country. Thank you.
Okay, that's a fine place to leave the conversation. I'd like to say a very big thank you to you both, Honorable Godbless Lema of the Chadema Party and Emmanuel Mvula at Wazalendo. Thank you both for being a part of today's conversation.
God bless you.
Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll go on a quick break, and when we come back, focus will be on Nigeria's 2023 elections. Political parties have started selling nomination forms and exorbitant prices. We'll be looking at all of this and more when we return. Join us again.
Thanks to staying with us. You're still watching the conversation right here on News Central TV. On the first phase, we looked at the president of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu Hassan, the first female president in Tanzania. We looked at her administration so far, how well she has gone in the past 1 year. Now, in this second phase, we're looking at Nigeria's 2023 elections. Gbenga, if they were to give you about 30 million naira, I told you that for you to contest, you have to give about 30 million naira. Do you have that with you to contest for elections?
I definitely don't. And I feel it disenfranchises a lot of people. It's democracy on sale.
Well,
and this cost is just outrageous.
I'm sure you'll be able to afford 30 million naira. It's small for you now. All right, so we're looking at Nigeria's 2023 elections, and while contestants have begun declaring their intentions to contest in Nigeria's 2023 election, major political parties in Nigeria have released prizes of nomination forms for those wishing to contest in various electoral positions. The People's Democratic Party, after its 95th National Executive Council meeting on Wednesday, pegged its nomination and expression of interest forms for presidential aspirants at 40 million naira. The NEC also approved a 50% reduction in nomination fees for youths aged 25 to 30 years for various elective positions as sale of forms began on Thursday.
Now, on the other hand, Nigeria's ruling party, the All Progressives Congress, has commenced the sale of forms to aspirants contesting for various offices in its National Working Committee. In a document signed by the party's Director of Organisation, Mustafa Medina, the party pegged the cost of form for its chairmanship seat at 20 million naira, while aspirants vying for deputy chairmanship seats are expected to obtain the forms with 10 million naira each. Now, to discuss this, we have Lanre Suraj, is the chairman of Human and Environmental Development Agenda, and Geofrey, Eneyo, a public affairs analyst, joins in from Aberdeen in Scotland. Gentlemen, one welcome to you both, and welcome to the conversation.
Thank you very much.
Now, I'd like to start with Lanre. Let's start with the People's Democratic Party prize for nomination forms and expression of interest in the presidency. It's pegged at 35 million naira and 5 million naira, respectively. Do you find this amount outrageous, or is it justified based on the financial commitments of the office and the party?
Yeah, I mean, it is already a clear indication that the political parties are not learning any new lessons, and the politicization is not also considered as a service to the community, but more or less like a business enterprise where the aspirants are required or expected to invest some certain capital so that it can then be considered appropriate when he is also recovering some of his investments. So for the purchase of the nomination form at the range of 30-40 million naira, it is not only just ridiculous, but also outrageous. And you get to wonder, for what purpose is this considered? Is this part of the money that would be for the campaign by the party for the candidates? And you would want to also understand that it's usually not just the reason, because then you would hear how billions of nairas would be expected from the aspirants but before they can actually win elections. So if they're forced with that amount of money, the newly interested candidates, aspirants are automatically disenfranchised. And I would expect that some of these sincere and genuine aspirants would challenge the party, either in court or even with INEC, on this outrageous amount of money that is already devised by some of the established big wig in the party and the political landscape of Nigeria to shut out some of these other sincere and genuine aspirants who would be more committed to the development of the country than just an opportunity to go into office and then rake in money after some investment in the forms and also gratification of party officials.
All right, Geofrey, let's hear from you. I don't want to assume your position, but just like Lanre, some political watchers are of the opinion that high cost of nomination forms gives the impressions that elections in Nigeria were reserved for the higher bid, while others say it encourages corruption in the government. Are you also of this opinion, or do you feel it's justified? I mean, it's the position of the presidency. If you want a high position, you have to pay the price. Are you of this opinion?
Well, I would take a deferred view. Well, the argument that such amount of money, for instance, 40 million for presidency, is quite huge and could disenfranchise some people who might have interest. It's not completely out of order, but at the same time, if someone wants to be president of Nigeria, of course, these things involve money. There has to be campaigns. The question we should be asking is, where do political parties get their money to fund their activities? So if you want to become president and the party says it's 40 million naira for 5 million for expression of interest and 35 million naira for the nomination of forms, I want to believe that for me, there are a couple of factors that would come to play here. If I want to be president, I expect that, of course, I would have some level of financial muscle for that office. And secondly, I would expect that there are people who would have bought into the idea that, okay, the plans and the programs I have, that I think these are things that are practical and are workable and can help Nigerians, are things that I expect people to also buy into. So all things considered, you would expect that people who have already identified with whatever philosophy or ideas that I'm bringing to the fore would have chipped in their widow's mite into the campaign. So I don't want to contest. That's an internal party affairs. I don't think I want to contest that amount. If you want to become president of Nigeria, that office requires that you have certain amount of money on your own, and we can't run away from that fact. Money will always be a factor. Okay. But
Geofrey, sorry to butt in there. While you're talking about the fact that money has to be a factor, there's this popular saying in Nigeria which goes about the national cake, especially when people go into political offices. And it's saying that a lot of people would want to retrieve the money that they have spent to get into that position. So don't you see that as undermining Nigeria's democracy or probably promoting corruption in the country?
Like I said from the outset, that I'm not contesting the argument that it could be a trigger for corruption. Yes, but if the limits that INEC are set for political expenses, if the parties are not have not gone beyond that, I think the problem should now, wherever the focus should now be with INEC. What I would rather concern myself with is the transparency of the process, the integrity of the process of nominating a candidate for a political party.
Okay, thank you, Geofrey. Well, I'd like to
myself with.
Okay. Thank you, Geoffrey. I'd like to bring back Lanre Suraj here. Lanre, we've seen the state of the Nigerian economy, and so many Nigerians are living on less than $1 a day. So how do we make money politics irrelevant? Because when you pay such an exorbitant amount for nomination forms, you want to win by all means necessary. And you've seen the perks of office, of which you obviously, it's very attractive. You would like to recoup it, like Rita said earlier. How do we stop the weaponization of poverty in Nigeria by politicians? And how do we reduce the impact of money in our democratic space?
Yeah, thank you. I think the first point where I think it is very important to make that point and then also assist Geoffrey in understanding the political landscape and also the issue of not just rigging and also the weaponization that you have just mentioned, but it's also about ensuring that we have the open space and also allowances for every intending person to aspire, freely aspire in politics. And that is to the extent that the limitation of political participation starts from here. And this is why we don't have party politics in Nigeria. You will have a governor or even a president who will come into office from the same party. And the next incoming president is coming as more or less a candidate rather than the candidate of the party. So there are no manifesto that is consistent with the political parties. There are no policies and programs that are also sustained by political parties. So it is more or less like individual, office holder that comes with his own agenda, because the whole slot and the integrity of the party is sold to the candidate with this kind of payment. First, you already tax the candidate to the extent that he feels, after paying that much, how would you want to dictate, to me what I do in office? Number one. Number two, it also ostracizes the other people who don't have enough money. And political parties, especially here, and this is where it's extremely important that we engage the process. The law does not allow for independent candidacy. So it means you have to go through political parties. So if political parties are already discriminating against people who would want to aspire, so it is also already a violation of the law, where it is made near impossible for aspirants who are members of the party to aspire for offices because of the restrictions that are associated with. How much was Shagari having when he became the president of Nigeria? How much was Tafa Balewa having when he became president of Nigeria? So becoming the president of Nigeria is not anything to do with the amount of wealth that is at your disposal, except that we're talking about, only the wealthy would have the capacity to rule the country. And that is absolutely a fallacy in terms of considering the capacity for managing political offices.
All right, Lanre, I'd like to stay with you. You talked about independent candidacy, but I believe that I think in the Electoral Amendment Bill, which has been passed, it has actually approved for independent candidacy. But if we go down memory lane, you talked about how in Shagari's time, this was not the situation. How do you think political parties can actually source for funds? Because they are saying this is the way they can fund the political party. So what other ways can political parties source for funds that will not bring about this sort of exorbitant prices for nomination forms?
Yeah, the political membership is meant to be supported, to be supporting the political parties. It's a
Okay, while we're still having connectivity problems with Lanre, let's also hear from our other guests. We're looking at the other sources of funding for political parties. What other sources do you think political parties can go into so as to reduce exorbitant prices of nomination forms?
If you ask me, I would think that first of all, I would expect that the law would made provisions for parties declaring to us how they fund their programs. And for instance, in the West, what they basically do, a candidate opens, say, a public account, and people are allowed to contribute their little token into into a fund that they can use to carry out their campaigns. And there is that integrity, there is that accountability of the process. So in fact, after your campaigns and your elections, people know where the money comes from and what you do. Well, but unfortunately for us, we don't, most of our political parties do not necessarily state clearly how where this money must come from, whether it must come from your pocket or not. They don't really care. So we know that parties fund their programs through public funds. We know that is something that they do. Well, I would suggest that there is nothing wrong with political parties also having businesses around, supporting, investing in businesses to fund their programs. There is nothing wrong with that. If that is, I think it's a viable path that parties can also look towards and pursue their programs.
Okay, thank you very much, Geofrey. Now, just before we wrap things up, Lanre, this should be our 22nd year of our uninterrupted democratic experience since 1999. How do we move as a nation away from money politics and politics of personality to have more issue-based discussions on the campaign trail and engage with these candidates and the programs they have for developing Nigeria?
Yeah, I mean, the first step is by both members and non-members of the country, citizens generally, engaging the political landscape as well, and the political parties and their activities, their programs. It is insufficient for us to make affairs of political parties just that of the members. No, that would be totally wrong. And it's not about just attending meetings of political parties that determines or confirms your membership, or sorry, your activities and role in the party. No, as observers, you can also hold political parties responsible for some of their activities and hold them also accountable to the law. So if the money agenda is already introduced with the purchase of funds like this, and it is not about your credibility, your integrity, your pedigree and profile, then we have a problem. So it's already a process initiated based on money. And that means that the whole issue is about bringing enough money for the party to have, votes bought for during the election. So it has to be where we start engaging the party on the issue of ideas and the programs and the manifestos. I can assure you, and you can go down the memory lane, since 1999, we've not been having the politics of ideas, of manifestos and issues and policies. It has been the politics of personalities and vote buying. And going forward in 2023, without our effective and constructive engagement of what happens in the parties in terms of their nomination process, primaries, outcomes of their primaries, and the candidates that will be put forward, we're likely to just have a repeat of our past, not anything to be celebrated about the past in terms of the engagement or politics of ideas, of issues. We would only just have the politics of, vote buying, and also personality issues. And for us, moving forward, like I said, we have a duty to engage the political parties and ensure that they...
All right, thank you so much, Lanre. You've raised so many vital issues concerning the growth of political parties in Nigeria. This is where we'll unfortunately draw the curtains for today's edition. Thank you so much, Lanre, Suraj, and Geofrey Eneyo from Aberdeen, UK, for sharing so much insights on Nigeria's 2023 elections. And just to put it across there, we also know that the PDP NEC approved a 50% reduction for youths, and that is between the ages of 25 to 30 years.
I mean, how many 30-year-olds can afford 15 million? I mean, just I don't think it moved the needle.
I think it's in their justification. So there, they have it there that youths between ages of 25 to 30, we've had a 50% reduction. Well, we'll see how that pans out in Nigeria. This is how we'll draw the curtains for today's edition of The Conversation. Gbenga is laughing. Gbenga, are you between 25 to 30 years? Probably I
still can't afford it. Yeah, so they need to do better. Thank you very much for being a part of the conversation. I'm Gbenga Aborowa.
And I am Rita Omodia. Till next week, bye-bye.